We covered the YNW Melly case a while back.
We did.
And we know, obviously, that he's going to be up for trial again because it was a hung jury.
Yep.
They couldn't make a decision. I thought this was interesting. So there's no articles written about it. It was just on I think it was Sidebar Podcast. We can put it up here on Law and Crime. They did an interview with YNW Melly's ex-girlfriend. I have it written down. Mariah. What is her last name?
Who
Mariah
he's still
Hamilton.
friends with and everything. Yeah.
Well, she said she hasn't talked to him in a very long time.
Oh.
Which I don't know if that's true or not. I saw many salacious rumors online when I started Googling her. So I don't know what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
But basically, she was coming on Sidebar Podcast to say, this is where I've been and why. Because, like, nobody's heard from her a long time. She wasn't in the court proceedings from what I guess was being said.
Yeah.
And that's because she's literally been hiding.
Yeah.
Because she's wanted.
She's wanted?
That's what she said, that she's wanted.
I wonder if she's talking about being called to court for the case.
Maybe, but basically, here's the gist of it. So, her mother, Felicia Holmes, made a statement in December 2018 that Melly and Mariah had a FaceTime call right after the shooting where Melly said a car was coming up from behind him and shot up the car, and that he thinks Sack Chaser and why does it say Juicy? Juvie.
Yep.
It was a typo. Juicy. I was like, what? No, it's Juvie. Are dead. Then saw him with Frito Bangs, like at Frito Bangs' house, that Frito Bangs came and picked him up right after the shooting, and then she offered to let him come stay with her, and he was like, nah, and went to a video shoot right after. And then that Melly was like threatening her, and that there was possible tension between Melly and Sack Chaser, and that the mom thinks, Mariah's mom, Felicia, thinks that Melly had something to do with the shooting, okay? And also, Mariah told law enforcement that Melly sent a text saying, I take lives. Well, her 2022 deposition, the mom's, Felicia's, wasn't consistent with any of that. Any of that statement.
Jeez.
So, and then she started accusing the prosecutor and the government of threatening her and her daughter to testify against Melly, that they had been threatening her and coercing her to say certain things, to give them what they wanted to get him convicted. So basically, they come on.
So she's in hiding from that.
She's in hiding, and her mother has an ankle monitor on, and she said, the prosecutor wants me in jail. I literally have an ankle monitor on. And even Mariah's lawyer was like, he came on and was like, look, take away the charges and she'll happily come to court and give you a statement. Yeah. Like, she's not saying she won't comply. The only reason she's not is because she's afraid you guys are going to arrest her.
Yeah.
And they talk a little bit, like, into the history of her and Melly a little bit. And it sounds like neither her or her mom think he had anything to do with it. And they think the prosecution is pulling some shady stuff,
yeah.
And that basically none of that was true. She said none of what they told me that was what they told me to say. She said none of that was true.
Wow. That is wild. I mean, we saw the character assassination. I think that's probably one of the first videos that we pulled up and really started focusing on the character assassination on. Just with the prosecution trying to say he's this awful, horrible guy because of the way he dresses. Like, what does dressing have to do with a crime? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I know.
And that isn't an evidence-based conviction. It is wild, man.
Well, and Mariah also says, like, you know, he's just a really silly, like, goofy guy. Like, I never thought he could be involved with this, honestly.
I mean,
and
everyone
and
has multiple sides. But.
Yeah, but they asked, do you know of him to be, like, a part of a gang? And she said, no, never. She said there were friends we hung out with, and then, you know, there's other rappers and people, you know, and apparently there was some kind of fight, I think, in LA, where she said they had an altercation with this other group of guys, like, at the studio. They were pulling up to the studio, and, it started out like anything. They're like, what's up, you know, and they start fighting, and she said she was shielding Melly, like, with her body, and that the guys weren't trying to hit her, but they were, and she has, like, a giant scar on her back from it.
Jeez.
And that Melly's chain fell off and dropped, and they grabbed it and booked it. And that the law enforcement never investigated it and didn't care about it.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, that's probably a different law enforcement, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have something to do with that case. But the YNW Melly case, I look at it the same as I look at any case. It just needs to be fair. Let the evidence speak. Now, some of the evidence looks really bad against him, but the reason why I have doubt is the approach that the prosecution has used.
Which is what Mariah and her mom were saying, is like that they're doing a terrible job and they're threatening witnesses to try to force them to say what they want.
That's wild. That's just wild.
It is wild. And if there's any truth to that, I mean, what is up with all this shady stuff we're seeing in the court system right now?
Yeah.
Like with Murdaugh, okay, YNW Melly, Karen Reed, Koberger, like we're seeing, that's literally 4 cases, and I'm sure there's probably more out there that we're seeing, but they're all super high profile, and we're seeing really shady stuff from court officials.
Yeah, from the prosecution
or a court official.
Yep,
like
I know.
People who are not supposed to be doing shady stuff.
I assume it's one of two things. Either they found out that their suspect is guilty in a way that they're not allowed to, and so this is like them being like, we know that you did it. We just can't admit how we found out how you did it, so we have to use these other tactics. Or they could just be at a place where, you know, maybe they're frustrated with how many criminals get off. Either one isn't okay. I'm not saying either one of those are okay. No. They're both wrong, but I'm just trying to figure out the why behind it, you know?
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate because like you should be able to trust. I mean, I guess
we're supposed to be the good guys.
The prosecution is supposed to be the good guys, and so is like a court clerk, like not necessarily a good guy, but an impartial, you know, person, a part of the system that is supposed to keep it running.
Which is a good guy. That's like, I'm not saying that the defense is a bad guy. I'm just saying that when you're representing the justice system in the way that prosecution does for the state, in the way that the court clerk does for the state, in the way the judge does for the state, and all the investigators and everything in between, you are supposed to be able to be trustworthy, be honest, be upfront. You know, sometimes doing things the right way is harder to get things done, but that makes you trustworthy. Sometimes doing things the right way makes you lose, but it gains you so much trust around you. When you don't have that trust, you don't have anything.
Right. And if you get found out that you're doing shady stuff, a part of the prosecution, then you get your whole case thrown out. Like, is it really worth it to go through all that work and then have it thrown out because you were pulling shady stuff?
Not only that, it could be every case in your entire career, depending on what it is. So I agree. I don't think that's worth it. We see officers in the Idaho 4 case that are being questioned because of other cases that they were very shady in, and that is a hint drop for a later story. But this interview is really interesting. I saw very, very small parts of it where she talked about how much Melly meant to her and she meant to Melly,
Right.
love at first sight, how she was working on herself while he is going through all that. And I just hope if YNW Melly isn't guilty, I hope they aren't character assassinating him just because he's a rapper with a specific image and that gangster rap style. Like, that makes me nervous. I don't ever want to be in a place where we're judging people based on the way they look or their character for their image of their rap persona or content creator persona. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
He need if that is a part of his persona though, like to look a certain way, he needs to like have his defense saying that then. Like, look, this
well, I
but
think
maybe
his defense is doing good.
Maybe yeah, I think they are too, but maybe that looks bad for his rap career. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, look, he's not a hard ass. He's actually like a huge P word.
Yeah, charges usually help rap careers, so.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what you guys think about it. Make sure you watch that YNW Melly video because it's a very interesting case with the way that the shots were fired in the car, how there were 4 people in there, two people got hit, and how the cops are trying to say him and his friends set it up. It's just wild stuff, man.
It is.
And we're about to see another case. A re-go at it, a retrial.
Yep.
So let us know. So